Welcome to Blessed and Boys, a podcast that's all in on the Buffalo Bills. We're one Saints fan and one Cowboys fan, one fan of who dat and one fan of dat win. We're here to give weekly takes, game recaps, bad betting picks, game previews, and the occasional Seinfeld reference.
We also would like to apologize to Buffalo Bills fans everywhere for officially jinxing
Cursing them.
For cursing them. During this playoff season, we would like to highlight each week one Saint, one Cowboy who won a Super Bowl with each team. This week, our patron Saint is defensive back Malcolm Jenkins. Jenkins was the 14th overall pick of the Saints in 2009 out of the Ohio State University, freshly minted national champions. In his rookie season, Jenkins was part of the Super Bowl 44 champions, and the following year, in 2010, he was voted second-team AP All-Pro. He would leave the Saints after the 2014 season, joining a team near and dear to Brandon's heart, the Philadelphia Eagles, where he appeared in 3 Pro Bowls during his 5-year tenure, and he also was a part of the Super Bowl 52 championship team in the 2017 season. Jenkins would rejoin the Saints in 2020, finishing his career with the Saints and retiring after the 2021 season.
Our patron Cowboy this week is defensive back James Washington. Washington was originally drafted in the 5th round out of UCLA by the Los Angeles Rams in 1988, having dropped due to knee injuries in college. The Rams then left him unprotected following the 1989 season, which had allowed him to sign as a Plan B free agent, which we learned about last week, with the Dallas Cowboys. He spent 1990 through 94 with the Cowboys and played a major role in the back-to-back Super Bowl titles the team won. His biggest contribution was Super Bowl 28 when he returned a second-half fumble for a touchdown that tied the game at 13 and then picked off a Jim Kelly pass to set up the game-sealing touchdown. But unfortunately, he was robbed of the game's MVP honors when those were given to Emmitt Smith. He also missed out on the 3rd Super Bowl title because he signed with Washington prior to the 1995 season, which ended up being his last in the league. He apparently tried to fight a fan that year and then was released by Washington in August of 1996. He finished his 8-year career with 17 total interceptions. So,
real quick, Super Bowl 28, was that the Pasadena? Was that in the Rose Bowl or was that the?
No, that was the Rose Bowl.
Georgia?
Was the Georgia Dome.
Okay.
That one was a little closer. The final score was 30-13. I think the Bills were up 13-6 going into halftime, and then Dallas came back and tied it, and then basically just ran them out of the building in the second half.
Gotcha. I'm Paul, the Saints fan.
I'm Brandon, the Cowboys fan.
We're your hosts, and now Izzy, tell them what time it is.
Yeah, that's it. It's go time. Let's see you live that.
Mr. Mandelbaum, please.
It's go time.
This one's for you, Pop. It's go time.
It's go time.
You've been married 3 times.
That's it! It's go time!
It's go time.
We should mention our beloved Izzy Mandelbaum, Lloyd Bridges, rest in peace. It was his birthday last week.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing that.
We retweeted our
what
account.
Was that? What was the show that he was? Oh, it was the airplane clip, right? I picked the wrong week to quit.
Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
I picked the wrong week to stop doing to quit doing amphetamines.
I should have. I actually considered. I didn't do it, but I should rewatch Airplane here.
I need to do that too.
Speaking of Twitter and how you can contact the show, we have an email, blessedemboys@gmail.com. That's BLESSDEMBOYZ@gmail.com. Our Twitter handle. We're still waiting for Coach Belichick and or LeBron James to follow us. Who's the next celebrity we should maybe try to get?
Ooh, that's a good question. Who's got a lot going on right now?
I don't know. We'll noodle with this. Maybe we can get Jerry. Maybe we can get Jerry. I don't think Jerry's on. Jerry Seinfeld's not on. Twitter. I
No,
don't think.
maybe Mr. Met.
Mr. Met. Okay.
I know. I
We'll
think
have to.
him and his wife are now sharing custody of the Twitter account right now. I think
Oh,
Mr. and Mrs. Met are now combine their social media accounts. So it's usually not a good sign for the marriage in that situation.
yeah,
Most of the
yeah,
when that happens.
yeah. That's a shame.
Yeah.
In the meantime, you can contact us on Twitter. We're at bless_dem_boys, capital B, capital D, capital B. You can also follow myself. I'm at Paul Elliott _316. That's PAULELLIOTT. And you can follow Brandon at Ball from Grace. Show is available to stream both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a rating and review. Appreciate all the feedback. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell random
Tell the
people
bot.
on the tell the bots. Yes.
Tell the
The bots
bots.
are still we're still
I think we got a new bot today.
Did we?
I think so.
Well, welcome aboard. Real quick, did I tell the story last week about my name getting messed up at work?
No, no. Are you are you Cartwright?
Yeah, something like that. So I work in HR. I work in HR systems. Like basically my job is to report out things of like an HR variety, retention, things like that. I work in, and so they send out the HR. Someone in HR sent out a mailing list, basically everybody by department with their names and their contact information, all that stuff. So I find my team, and listed on my team there is a name Elliot, John. Now, you may, for those listening, you may realize that my first name is not John.
Is your
John
middle
is
name
nowhere.
John?
No,
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 no.
nope, not even close. So
You're not Cartwright. I
I'm
know
not
I'm not Cartwright.
I know I'm right. But what's funny about this is usually, I think about this because when I do the introduction, I always spell my last name, and people might say, "Well, we know how to spell Elliot." Well, you'd be surprised.
Mm,
Like a lot of
That's
people, yeah,
that's how I feel about my last name. My
yeah,
last name gets butchered all the time. It's Connor, or it's O'Connor,
right,
or they put an S on the end, or they do the trifecta of O'Connors.
yeah.
So I
We,
can
we,
sympathize with you there.
yeah. So, and listen, I understand. I get it. I have two first names. Actually, I have three first names because my middle name is Marshall. But you know, well, I'll add it to my list of grievances for next Festivus. But
That's a good call.
that's a good transition here. Let's before we get into the football here, let's talk about some other things. What you get up to this week, Brandon?
So we had some friends in from the friends that we visited in Austin actually came over here because they were going to NASA this weekend. So they came out. We went to this place that's like a claw machine place where you basically get tokens and then you can
Yep.
play little
My
claw
yeah.
machines.
My
And then
wife took our girls to such a place not that long ago.
yeah, it was actually over in kind of your neck of the woods in Katy, Asian Town.
Yep, I know exactly where you're talking about. Yeah.
So we went there. We ate dinner at a place called Creekwood Grill, which is fairly near our house, which has like burgers and a good play area for the kids. So we did that. Me and the oldest daughter are doing a 5K this upcoming weekend. So we did some training for that because my daughter decided she wants to do a run.
Okay.
So we did a 2 mile run there. I would like to remind everybody that a 5K is 5 kilometers, not 5,000 miles, as
Right.
Pam in the office points out. And then
Just make sure you carb up, you carb load.
yes,
Before,
yes, and don't take and make sure you take the what is it, the Imodium before you, so you don't have to go on the way.
Forgot about that.
Then the other thing was so on Sunday like I usually do the cooking for the week on Saturday or Sunday, and so on Sunday I decided I was going to make a couple of recipes. I made a blackberry crumble for dessert, which was which actually turned out really good. But the only problem was I burned up our food processor making the dough because you're supposed to pulse it, and so I just held it for a little bit too long, and I pulled it out, and there was smoke coming out of the machine.
Got
So
the yeah.
um,
Couldn't make the numbers work out.
no, I could not make the numbers work out. So the crumble ended up fine, but the food processor was not salvageable. Um, this of course all happened like so. I started making the crumble. I burn up the food processor. I realize it's just a little past 2 o'clock. I turn on the TV to turn on the NFC divisional game between the Rams and the Eagles, and I hear a massive amount of cheering because Jalen Hurts has just had the giant touchdown run. So everything is
Okay.
going wrong here.
Right.
And then I was making pasta. And
So
I'd
while
gotten
you were
enough.
burning, while you were burning the crumble, Jalen Hurts was burning the Rams defense.
That's correct.
Gotcha.
Neither of us could make the numbers work.
No.
I will get into my airing of grievances with that game once we get to that. Once we get to
I
it.
believe you will. I believe
There
you
are
will.
plenty of grievances there. So that happened, and then I made gnocchi. I got the ingredients, and I knew we would probably need to do double the recipe to make it last for the week. So I got double everything, and then I made double the potatoes, but I didn't put in double everything else into the dough, and so the gnocchi it turned out it's edible, but it is
Okay.
it's very heavy on the potato flavored.
Ah,
So
gotcha.
so that's what I did. Paul.
Okay.
Oh, and then we should also say here in Houston we had a snow day today, like a legitimate snow day, not
Yeah.
the usual. We got 2 inches of solid ice. We actually got
Oh yeah.
some snow, so we had a little bit of a snowball fight, and then we actually got out and
Yeah.
made a full size snowman. Not the first time I've ever been able to make a snowman that was bigger than a foot tall.
Yeah, it was kind of exciting. This was probably the best version of a snow day where you wake up and there's snow on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
I actually got to see snow fall because usually, like the last couple of times, the snow has fallen during the night.
Uh-huh.
So when you wake up, there's no more snow to fall. But today around 9 or 10 o'clock, it looked like a snow globe outside. Like it was really
Yeah.
So
We
that was
actually
kind
got
of
some
cool.
big real flakes coming down, which
Yeah.
you usually don't get over here in this neck of the
Yeah.
woods.
But then the even better thing was by about 1 or 2 o'clock this afternoon, the sun was out. So you kind of had. So it was kind of. And now I think we're done for probably for another year at least.
Yeah, well, probably for another decade.
Another decade.
Yeah.
And for our friends in the South Louisiana area, some really cool pictures coming out of New Orleans of.
Yeah, they got even more than we did.
Yeah, absolutely. Tiger Stadium. I don't know if you saw. There was a picture of Tiger Stadium just covered in snow. It was a sight to behold for sure. So speaking of sights to behold, when we logged off last week, we had just finished our recording, and I told you that I recalled a DoorDash incident I forgot to tell. So
Yeah, I forgot. I realized I'd forgotten to ask you because
Yeah.
there's usually some form of DoorDash mishap.
Fiasco. Yeah.
Mishap, fiasco.
Yeah, let's
A real
let's-
brouhaha.
yeah, a brew. Yeah. So gather around, everyone. Here's your DoorDash tale for the week. So last week, it was I forget what day of the week it was. I ordered some food, and what I did, as I do from on occasion, is I'll order food from a restaurant, but then I'll order a drink from Sonic because I like Sonic's drinks. I'm a simple man. So 99.9 times out of 100, the same Dasher or Prancer or Donner or Vixen,
One of the reindeer.
one of them, will get the food at the restaurant and the drink at Sonic. That will kill two birds with one stone, so to speak.
Mhm.
every once in a while, depending on, I don't know how it works with DoorDash, but I guess depending on certain factors, you may have two dashers or Donners or Vixens, uh, satisfy your order.
Mm-hmm.
One gets the food, one gets the Sonic drink. And I'm giving a long wind up on this. It all makes sense here in a second. So I order the food, order my drink from Sonic. Go about my business, and I get a notice that says your food's at the door. It's like, all right, cool. Go to the door. I see the food, but I don't see a Sonic drink.
Mm-hmm.
So my initial thought was, oh, someone else must be bringing my Sonic drink. And then I don't know why, but I decided to look at the picture on the because when they deliver, they have to take a picture of it and send you a text message. Now, the other thing I should mention, if you order from two separate restaurants, like I did in this situation, you get two separate text messages. You should get two separate text messages, even if it's the same picture. They technically. So I look at the picture and I see the food, which is in front of me at my door, but I also see a Sonic drink in the picture, and I'm
which
thinking,
is no longer there.
And I'm looking, it was like, well, it's not there. Just as now this is all happening, obviously, very, very quickly.
So when you first told me this, like my assumption is that somebody ran by, saw the Sonic drink, and then just snatched it off your porch.
Right. Well, what I think happened, and I'm going to be respectful to the dasher, is he put the food down, he put the drink down, took the picture, and then panicked, thinking that the drink was not part of this delivery. Because when I looked up from again, I'm at my door, I see my food, I see the picture on my phone, I look up, and he's still at the end of my driveway, and he's in his car. And he's holding the Sonic drink, and he happens to like turn his head and look at me, and I kind of do the like, I think that's mine. And he gets out of the car, he brings me the drink. It's like, yeah, sorry about that. All right, whatever. Like, I don't think it was malicious.
See, my other thought there was that he had like grabbed the drink and was like trying to make a hasty getaway there.
There was one incident, this is years, I think year and a half, 2 years ago, where, and this happens like once in a blue moon. They'll say it's delivered, and I'll look at the picture and go, that's not my house. You know what I mean? Like, They'll bring it to my neighbor, one of my neighbors, or whatever.
They delivered the order, but it was
right. Yeah, anybody can just deliver it.
Yeah.
But in this instance, I walked to both of my neighbors' houses, couldn't find it. I have no idea where they dropped this food off. This was a while back. So I will say one thing I'll say about DoorDash is they are pretty good about making it right. Like it's pretty easy to like report an issue and to get, if nothing else, they'll give you like your money back. But anyway, so that was my tale for that. On to things I watched. I got to watch a good bit this week without any, like with football games winding down. Guess watched a little Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Continuing on my Coen Brothers.
Making it through the whole catalog.
Yeah. As I talked about last week. Have you seen Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
I have. It's been a while. Yes, I've seen. I've seen that one. That's a great movie.
It's just delightful. Yeah, it's a great movie. Seinfeld connection. Our good buddy Kruger.
He's one of the escaped. Is he one of the felons?
No, he's actually the sheriff. He's actually the one chasing them down. With the sunglasses, he's got sunglasses, and he finally catches up to him at the inn, and they've already been pardoned. So the three felons are played by Clooney,
Clooney, yeah,
John Turturro, and Tim Blake Nelson. And at the very end, they get pardoned by the governor. I don't remember who plays the governor. And Daniel von Bergen, I think is his name, is Kruger's name. He finally catches up with them after they've been pardoned, quote unquote. And he's like, yeah, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. We're still going to, whatever. So
yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen that. It's supposed to be like a adaptation of the Odyssey. I believe.
The Odyssey, yeah.
Yeah. Which
because
I'm looking forward to Christopher Nolan's doing his own version of that.
Yeah, that should be interesting. And then also Coen brother related, I watched Barton Fink. Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't.
John Turturro. It's very good. It's hard to find streaming. I ended up having to rent it. I'd rented it off of Fandango or Voodoo.com. The Man Who Wasn't There. That's a Billy Bob Thornton one. It's really cool. It's filmed entirely in black and white. Kind of noir-ish. Very good. Hudsucker Proxy. Have you seen that one?
I'm not.
That's a Tim Robbins star. Paul Newman's actually in this. It's kind of weird, like Paul Newman in a Coen Brothers movie, but it works.
Not a Hello Newman.
No, not Hello Newman. And then Hail Caesar. Have you seen Hail Caesar? That's a little more recent.
Yeah, I've seen like parts of that. I don't think I've ever. I think I've seen that one like on when it's been on TV, but it's never been I've caught it from beginning to end.
Yeah. So we've got just a couple left. I know I need to watch. You talked about last week or the week before. You talked about the Macbeth adaptation.
Yes,
I was on Apple. That one of the Coen brothers. I can't remember which one. I think it was Joel directed.
Yes,
that.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that one's really good.
Still need to watch that.
You watched Dazed and Confused?
I did watch Dazed and Confused. That's not Coen's, but yeah, I did watch Dazed and Confused for the first time. I had never seen it.
Oh, you've never seen that one? I've actually seen that one a few times.
That's Richard Linklater. Excuse me. He's a local boy. He's from Austin, I believe.
All right.
Yep. And look, it was good. Don't get me wrong, but it's definitely one of those. I was watching it like, yeah, I probably should have seen this when I was in high school or college.
It didn't age particularly well either, did it?
Right. Oh yeah, no, the McConaughey character, especially.
Thing I love about high school girls, I get older and they stay the same age.
Yeah, I watched that one for the first time, and I rewatched The Town. Are you familiar with this movie?
Yeah, the Ben Affleck movie.
Ben Affleck, Jeremy Renner. They play Boston.
The Joe Mazzulla movie.
The Joe Mazzulla movie.
Isn't he the one that like watches it like all the time? Doesn't he watch it? He's the Celtics coach.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that. I didn't realize he. I mean, I could see why. It's a very good, very very Boston movie. And then we unfortunately lost David Lynch last week. So rest in peace to him. Are you a fan of his films? Have you watched any of his?
I've never watched any of it.
So
I know Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks is like the one thing that I'm like most irritated that I've like never gotten to actually sit down and watch because I know it's great.
So yeah, I will say with his films, they are they're different.
That's what.
They're definitely. So I watched. I had seen the original Twin Peaks. I did not. I started, but I did not finish the Return. That was the like 16 episode kind of limited series that came out a few years ago now.
They adapted it into a restaurant chain.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
That's where the idea came from, right?
That's what it refers to. That's what it refers to. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just break in real quick. Celtics head coach Joe Mazzulla apparently watches The Town 4 times a week.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that's what
Hey.
I associate the town with.
I did not know that. That's very interesting to know. But getting back to David Lynch, I'd seen Twin Peaks. I saw a couple of his movies, Mulholland Drive, which is like a really out there.
Hmm.
Definitely a Vincent art house goon type
It's
type
not a
pick.
gene pick.
Not a Gene pick. No, it was more of a Vincent pick. But I did watch for the first time this week upon his passing. I watched a movie called Blue Velvet. This is one of
Hmm.
his earlier films, which was really of all of the movies of all the David Lynch stuff that I've seen. This felt the most like grounded.
Uh huh.
Um, it wasn't.
What you
I
mean
mean
is the
it.
least weird?
Yeah, I mean it still had its moments of weird, but it was a little more straightforward. Like some of his movies get very like, wait, what's going on? Like who's this? Like, but but I did want to shout out a Seinfeld connection here. Uh, the woman who played Mabel Choate, you may know her as the old bag that Jerry steals the marble rye from.
Give me
She
that right, you old bag.
she is in Blue Velvet. So if you're watching Blue Velvet, look out for Mrs. Choate. I don't remember her real name, but and then also I mentioned this last week, but I'll just mention it again. The season 2 of Severance kicked off last Friday. So and the first episode featured Mr. Dalrymple, Russell Dalrymple.
Mm.
Bob Balaban is the actor there.
Do you have a catch up secret?
Well, did you see somebody? I think it was this podcast is making me thirsty. They retweeted the "Get a Good Look" Costanza in relation to the. I don't know if you saw Zuckerberg at the
Yes, I did see that.
inauguration.
I think I saw that. I think I saw that tweet too. Somebody else posted actually the woman who was wearing the jacket with it looked like a Sue Ellen Mishke outfit.
Oh
The
yeah,
way she was, because it looked like she was wearing a blazer with it's Sue Ellen. It's not a top.
was this the woman who was standing in front of Robert Kennedy? And
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, I think I did see this. Fun times. All right. Anything else non-football? Oh, real quick. Non-football related. Baseball Hall of Fame came out a couple hours ago as we're
Yeah. See,
recording this.
CC got in.
CC Sabathia, Ichiro Suzuki, and Billy Wagner. Astros legend Billy Wagner got in. So
Astros and Phillies, correct?
yes, Astros and Phillies, but Carlos Beltran, Astros and Rangers legend,
Yes,
right?
correct.
He missed. I believe I saw he missed by 15 votes or so. It was very
close.
He'll probably get it. He I would imagine he'll get it next year based on how close he was this year. But yeah, so congratulations to CC Sabathia. So 2 left-handed pitchers get in: CC Sabathia and Billy Wagner,
And a left-handed hitter.
and a left-handed hitter. Yeah, probably the greatest foreign-born player of all time. Perhaps one
of my favorite things about Ichiro. So we in Kilgore we have a lot of for some reason I don't know why, but we have a lot of Japanese foreign exchange students that go to the junior college. And so I was hanging out with them one night, like me and some friends from the restaurant I worked at were hanging out with a couple of them. And so I asked him about, we were talking, we got on the subject of Ichiro somehow. And I asked him because he said his name is Ichiro. He wears Ichiro on the back of his jersey. And so in Japan, like they say that it's Suzuki Ichiro. So like they do the last name first.
Right.
And so I asked him, I was like, so is that regular that he would have Ichiro? Is it because of that? And they're like, no, Ichiro just is special. He just gets his first name or his given name on the jersey.
Do you want to take a guess Ichiro's percentage, his voting percentage?
I already know he missed. He had one person
missed it by one vote.
One vote. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're talking about Carlos Beltran, right? Wait,
yes.
was it? He was. Oh, he was with the Rangers. I forgot about that. I was
Yeah,
thinking
wasn't he on the?
of, he-
Was he
and
not on the World Series? No,
he was on the Astros World Series team, the
but was
Cheatham
he
Kings
not on the
team.
range? But what was he not on the Rangers World Series team that lost to the Cardinals?
No, he was with the Mets and the Giants that year. It looks like he didn't come to
Yeah, and
Texas until 2016.
I'm looking at the ballot here. So Beltran finished with 70.3%, and you need 75%.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Jones, 66.2%. Chase Utley, 39.8. Alex Rodriguez, 37.1. Manny Ramirez, 34.3. And Andy Pettit, 27.9. So
I know Ian Kinsler, the Rangers second baseman, didn't get
yep.
enough vote. He didn't get enough votes to stay on the ballot for next year. I saw that.
Oh, that's a shame.
That's a shame. Yeah, he was
Well,
Kinsler was one of the really key parts of that Rangers 2010 2011 back-to-back World Series appearances that they had.
so I'm just looking ahead to next year. Who's up for induction? Enshrinement. Hunter Pence, another Astros legend.
Another Rangers legend.
Another Rangers legend. By the way, actually, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to you. So my wife, in high school, was a discus and shot put thrower, and was good enough to receive a full ride scholarship to the University of Texas at Arlington, which she attended for a semester. And they would actually work out with the baseball team. And at that time, one of the guys on the baseball team was Hunter Pence. So she actually got to meet him through that.
What'd you think? What's the verdict?
She could take it or leave him.
Well, at least it wasn't a straight up leave him.
No. She, so we would always root for him even after he left the Astros. Also up for induction next year is Cole Hamels. There's another Rangers legend.
Yep. Another would not go to Houston legend.
And Ryan Braun. Not Lloyd Braun.
I was going to say, no relation to Lloyd.
No relation to Lloyd Braun, no. All right. Anything else non-football related you want to discuss?
No, I think we can get to last night's game really quick. I don't know how much you watched. I ended up staying up until Notre Dame missed the field goal. They had scored a touchdown to make it to bring it within, like, I think it was 16 at that point. My overbetted cashed, which is good.
Okay.
They didn't cover because I think Ohio State, but I went to bed after that, but I heard Ohio State kicked a late field goal to kind of,
it was,
I know Jeremiah Smith had a touchdown that really put it away, but then Ohio State also kicked the field goal to cover.
Yeah, it was funny because when Ohio State kicked that field goal, I mean, because that basically, so basically what happened is Notre Dame had them backed up. It was 3rd and long. They're on the Ohio State side of the field, and Howard just uncorks a throw. They decided to play man-to-man on Jeremiah Smith, which not good. Not a good idea. And Howard finds him for like a 50-yard gain, flips the field. Ohio State runs a couple plays. They don't gain any more yards. They just kick it. But basically, when they kicked the field goal, that put them up. Was 11? Yeah, with like 20 seconds left. So it's like,
okay.
Well, that's it. So,
but yeah, Costanza.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I was fine with it. As I think it's Reese Davis would say, significant to some.
Yes,
that field goal.
Exactly.
But I actually was surprised. I actually stayed up and watched the whole game. I didn't pull a Newman. I
turned it off because I thought at that point I was like, I don't see them getting back into it. But credit to Notre Dame for at least making a game of it, because it looked
Yeah,
like it
for
could have
sure.
it could have stayed out of hand.
I
Pretty.
I also say I think Will Howard may have made him some money last night. He looked pretty good.
Yeah, when I watch him,
I
I'm
think
like, I'm impressed, and then I'm always like, man, he's got so much talent. Like their receiving core is
yeah.
always like,
Yeah, that you mentioned that when we were texting about it.
I
But I
I
think
don't watch him and think, oh, he's only good, but it's like, could it be because like there's certain aspects of like when I watch him, I think, wow, he looks good, but then there's just the question in the back of my mind is I'm questioning how much I should buy into it because we've seen some, not, I mean, CJ Stroud is kind of the exception here, but we've seen some Ohio State quarterbacks that have come out and it's has not transferred to the NFL level. So that's my only like hesitation
yeah.
with them.
No, it's a fair. I mean, look, it's a fair criticism. But I think this year, and when I say made himself some money, I think because this year there's not really a wide array of quarterback talent. I mean, it's pretty much well established that Cam Ward and Shadur Sanders are probably the only two quarterbacks that'll go in the first round at this point. Um, there's room for somebody like Will Howard or Jackson Dart from Ole Miss, or somebody like that to maybe make a name for themselves and get them sneak into the first round potentially.
Mm.
So as far as our picks go, looks like you finished 32-15
Yep.
overall for your bowl game picks. There, not too shabby.
Yeah. In the wasn't in the meaty part of the curve, thankfully. I
No,
didn't
you were
I didn't pull up my final ranking though,
okay.
so that will have to be updated.
I can tell you my final ranking was not great. I finished up 20, 21-26 on the spread. Now, I will say I did finish on a 3-game winning streak, so there's a feather in my cap. Straight up, I was 28-19, but I'm going to shout out Andy, the Bears fan. He ended up 31-16 straight up. So shout out to him. Some good news for Andy, the Bears fan. We'll talk
He's
about
having
here.
a good week then.
He's having a pretty good week. Yeah. Which actually, yeah, I guess let's transition into kind of our news and notes segment here. All right. Well, anything else on before we get to that? Anything else on the college? I feel like they're going to update the 12-team playoff next year. I don't know what that's going to look like, but
Yeah, I wonder if they like maybe change the. I don't know if they changed the seating. I feel like winning your conference should get some sort of reward. I don't know if you maybe like
yeah,
change it so that those 4 teams get a home game too in that second round.
that's what I've yeah. So the what I've heard is the teams who got a bye, instead of it being at a bowl game, you give them a home game. So like this year, Oregon would have played Ohio State at Oregon instead of at the
Mhm.
Rose Bowl. Those kind
Right.
of things. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I definitely think they're going. I honestly think they just need to make it 16, and
Just
then just
we know where this is headed. Just let's
yeah.
just skip to the end.
It's like Roger Goodell earlier this week said that an 18-game NFL schedule is inevitable, or I forget how he phrased it, but it's like we know where this is going. So,
Mhm.
but all in all, I think the playoff was. I
I
think it was
thought it went
good.
well.
Yeah,
I know
yeah. I mean,
we had some blowouts, but I think that's just part of. I think
yeah,
that's
but I mean,
always
like,
going to be part of it.
for me, and look, I'm not a fan of any of. I'm not a diehard fan of any of the schools that were in the playoff, but like, if you're an SMU fan, would you have rather them lose to Penn State like they did, or go to like the Armed Forces Bowl, no disrespect, and play, and like beat up on somebody? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
at least this way you had a chance technically to
it makes the regular season matter for more teams that way.
right,
It keeps
right.
teams alive for longer. So yeah, I think it was
The
a huge improvement.
The other
I mean,
thing,
Ohio State probably wouldn't have even gotten in under the old format, right?
no, well, yeah, I mean, like a lot of these teams, yeah, yeah, I mean, the eventual national champion for sure. I mean, losing to Michigan on your last game of the year, most seasons is a death knell.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's, you're out. Um, what I will say is, I'm wondering if instead of them giving the bye teams a home game, if they just say, you know what, we're going to have the first round be at bowl games too. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, like nobody gets a home game kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. I know those bowl games, they like their money, so um,
Make
yeah,
the
we'll
Pop
see what
Tarts Bowl the national title game.
I
That's
mean,
my
listen,
suggestion.
you'll get no argument from me, sir. You'll get no argument from me. All right, let's move on to some news and notes in the professional ranks here. So I know last week when we did this, we started with Saints and Cowboys. I kind of want to start with, I guess, the big news of the week. So we'll talk about the divisional round and the games here in a minute. But honestly, the biggest domino from this past weekend was the Lions losing to the Commanders, because now that made Ben Johnson available to be hired, and he was hired by the Chicago Bears. He showed up at the facility today to sign his contract. I don't know if you saw that video, him walking in, and he got a standing ovation from the folks there at the
I think
facility.
my favorite Ben Johnson to the Bears tweet was the one that I sent you with the Simpsons. So you've ruined
Yeah,
your
yeah.
life.
That was pretty good.
I
No, no
honestly
disrespect.
actually thought, based on the smoke that was starting to come out with the Raiders, I thought I honestly thought he was going to end up in
Yeah,
Vegas. So um,
yeah. So him going to the Bears. So again, talking about the domino effect. So obviously, Lions lose, so that now makes Ben Johnson and also Aaron Glenn. We'll talk about him more in a second. That makes both of them available to interview and also obviously sign with teams. So Ben Johnson goes to the Bears, which, as a Saints fan, that means that now Mike McCarthy, who was believed to be high on the Bears list, is now available for the Saints, which is good because the guy who presumably was plan A for the Saints, Aaron Glenn, it looks like, is going to be the Jets head coach. He interviewed with the Jets today. He did his face to face interview. He left the facility without an official announcement, but it looks like the Jets are going to also hire, let me get this name here, Lance Newmark, who helped kind of rebuild the Commanders. And we obviously, call him again. We talked about the Commanders beating beating the Lions this past week. But Lance Newmark, the thought was he was going to go with Ben Johnson to the Raiders. Well, when Ben Johnson doesn't go to the Raiders, now Lance Newmark can go to the Jets, which allows the Jets to bring Aaron Glenn. The other thing I'll mention with Ben Johnson, another connection to the Saints, looks like he's going to hire Dennis Allen as a defensive coordinator. I mentioned this on the show last week or the week before. Dennis Allen is a terrible head coach, but he is a very good defensive coordinator. So I think that's a smart move for the Bears. Looks like his offensive coordinator is going to be Frank Haley, who is the Lions' offensive line coach, I believe.
mhm.
And there's talk of him bringing in Darren Rizzi, the current, well, not the current, I guess, but the interim Saints coach, as his special teams coordinator, assuming Rizzi doesn't get the Saints head job, which I don't know if you saw this today, but Alvin Kamara came out and basically said he wants Rizzi to be the head coach. So
Wow.
for what that's worth.
How
So
do you feel about how would you feel about that? Would you prefer
um
Rizzi or McCarthy?
I mean, so here's my overall thought. And I may have mentioned this on the show before. I feel like whoever is hired this cycle is not going to be there long term. And when I say long term, I mean like I mean, obviously he won't be a Sean Payton like 15, 16 years. I'm
Uh-huh.
thinking this coach that gets hired this cycle is there 2-3 years at the max. So if that's the case, a coach like McCarthy, with all due respect, is probably an ideal candidate because I don't know how long McCarthy wants to coach anyway.
Right.
So ideally for me, if you hired McCarthy, well, it's one of two things. You either hire McCarthy and then hire someone on his staff that you envision to be that coach of the future, quote unquote,
Mm-hmm.
so that when McCarthy does leave, you've got somebody in house. That's one path.
Right.
Well,
Sort of like a coach in waiting sort of thing.
yeah, path two, and by the way, I'll just throw out Pete Carroll's name too. Like you could do the same thing with Pete Carroll too. Like if you, which the Saints haven't been connected to Pete Carroll, but I'll just throw that out.
Mm.
The other thing is you could try to hire like a young OC like Joe Brady who has ties to the Saints. But then basically what you're saying is, okay, if you do that, then you're basically saying, all right, we're going to give Joe at least 3 years to kind of turn this around because we know the Saints are in cap hell and they don't know what they're going to do with Derek Carr, and we don't know what all. And I would also throw this out for the scenario of Cliff Kingsbury, which I just don't see Cliff Kingsbury coming to New Orleans. I just don't. I mean,
I feel like he seems like he's pretty happy just being an OC right now.
yeah, I feel like he would have to have the perfect, in his mind, the perfect opportunity come up, for him
Mm-hmm.
to leave where he's at. With Rizzy, I just feel like with Rizzy, if he gets the job, and I will say Nick Underhill, who has covered the Saints for years, does a good job, tweeted out today that from what he heard, Rizzy's interview with the Saints was very impressive. He was very organized, had a plan, knew what he wants to change, from an organizational perspective. So
You see
we'll
this
see. But
Derek Carr guy, he's got to go.
well, yeah. Well, no, actually, I think if Rizzy comes back, Carr probably stays. Honestly,
Mm,
but that's just my. But what I will say about Rizzy, this almost feels like the Antonio Pierce thing with the Raiders, where it's
mm-hmm.
like, okay, Darren, we'll give you a chance, but you basically got to like make the playoffs next year for us to. You're basically holding a seat for somebody else that maybe comes down the road. But I will also say we know we we talked about our good friend Mike, not Franz Kafka, uh, last week or week before, and they are bringing him in for a face-to-face interview. Well, they were going to,
It
but
got
then
pushed back by the weather, right?
the blizzard, yeah, and then also Anthony Weaver, who's the defense coordinator for the Dolphins, uh, who John Harbaugh spoke very highly of because he used to be on the Ravens staff before he moved to Miami. So I don't know. I'm kind of. It just feels like the Saints are not in a hurry, and that kind of frustrates me. Like there's no sense of urgency to them. Like this whole like them having to move these interviews because of the snow, which I get it. Like nobody expects snow in New Orleans, but you knew last week, like, hey, we might have a blizzard coming in next week. Like maybe we need to, you know.
I think, but you want them to do a full search. I think that's going to take
Oh
time.
yeah, for sure.
See, with the
Yeah,
Cowboys, I think I'd rather like them kind of take their time and be methodical, as long as they're actually like bringing in different people and kind of getting a sense
yeah,
of things instead of just hey, with McCarthy, they interviewed McCarthy and somebody else to fill the diversity quota, and
yeah.
that was it. And so
Oh,
this time.
Leslie Frazier, right?
Yeah, and this time it actually
Yeah,
feels like they're at least like interviewing people. I don't know how. I think Leslie Frazier was probably still, uh,
a
a Rooney Rule, Rooney
Rooney
Rule,
Rule. Yeah,
Rooney Rule interview, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I just feel kind of bad for him.
So
But
what do you what does your gut say about the Schottenheimer thing? Like
I saw a radio personality from Dallas say that he's like, I hear an offer could be coming soon for Schottenheimer, and then like an hour later somebody said Schottenheimer's interview just started, and so like I don't know how much credence to put into that. I've heard good things about him from like a personality standpoint. So I think he's like works well with the players, and so he's someone that he can relate to the players and has good relationships with the guys in the offense. I think that's a plus, and that's something that you would be good from a like CEO type head coaching standpoint. But I really don't want to bring him in and have him calling plays and building the offense. I think you can do better there. So my question for him would be, what's your plan on offense, and who are you bringing in? Who's your offensive line coach?
Mhm.
Who do you want to
Yep.
hire as the defensive coordinator? I'm curious if the Cowboys think that they can get Schottenheimer as the head coach and Saleh as the DC,
Yeah.
or if they think that, or maybe the other way around with Saleh as the head coach and Schottenheimer as the OC. I'm a little less
Well,
enthused about that option because I'm not I don't find Schottenheimer's offensive idea that doesn't excite me very much, and I don't think you're shaking things up enough if you end up going that route. Um, so I prefer. I know he's like currently the betting favorite, but those odds have jumped all over the place recently.
can
So I don't.
I behind door number 3, can I interest you in a Kellen Moore?
All of these coaches have their flaws, right? Like
Right,
it's
right.
always going to be a question of like so my issue with Kellen's offense when he was here, and I think I've seen some posts from Eagles fans about the kind of the same thing, is he has some good designery plays where it's like, oh, that looks cool, and it's kind of I wouldn't go as far as it's as Ben Johnson's gadget sort of plays, but he does have some stuff that's sort of one off stuff, but it's not always a one cohesive unit. Whereas like with Shanahan, with Ben Johnson, with those sort of offensive guys, there's always everything's part of a bigger plan. With Kellen, I never really got that sense. Um, so I think there's positive and negatives. I think Kellen would probably excite me more than Schottenheimer at this point, to be honest, though.
Okay. Yeah, and I think with both of our situations, well, with any coaching situation, we talked about this with the Bears. It's really about who you bring in, right? Like the questions I would have for like, if you hire, like I'm sure the Jet, well, let's go back to the Jets for a second. So if Aaron Glenn is their hire, who's he
Hmm.
bringing in as his defensive coordinator? Who's he bringing in as his offensive coordinator?
Yep.
Which I find it funny. One of the offensive coordinator names that came up today for the Jets with Aaron Glenn was Clint Kubiak, and it's
Mm.
like, if you want Clint Kubiak to be your OC,
We
just come to
already
New
got
Orleans.
we already
We
got
already
Clint
have him.
Kubiak. That's a we
So
have food at home situation.
right, right.
Well,
um,
what are you going to the restaurant for? We got food right here.
Yeah, but I did also found it interesting that Aaron Glenn is eyeing Steve Wilkes as his defensive coordinator.
Steve Wilkes Booth.
Steve Wilkes Booth, yes, former. Who did he? He was the Panthers head coach. He took over for Matt Rule, I believe, when Matt Rule was
Yeah.
fired.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say he was the Cardinals head coach before that. And one of those guys who had done very well as a defensive coordinator, not as much success as a head coach. But yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see. So I think once the Glenn domino falls, so if he does go to the Jets, then we'll probably start to see a little bit more movement. The Jaguars, looks like Liam Cohen is their candidate of choice right now. I know Robert Saleh was very impressive from what I heard
Mm-hmm.
in his
That's what
interview. Robert
I,
Saleh.
I heard. He
Go
was
ahead.
actually his interview with the Cowboys actually went pretty well too. From
Yeah, I texted you this the other day. I just feel like Saleh's gonna get a head coaching job this go around.
It wouldn't surprise me.
If not, the 49ers defensive coordinator position is waiting for him if he wants
Right.
it.
Yeah, he's got a fallback plan.
Yeah, and so Cohen for the Jaguars. For the Raiders, I heard the name Todd Monken mentioned with them. I know Brady was trying to pitch Ben Johnson pretty heavily. But going back to, let me kind of tie the Raiders to the Cowboys a little bit, because I mentioned this with the Saints too. Another name I heard with the Raiders and with the Cowboys was Pete Carroll. And I mentioned this with the Saints too. And I know I get it. I understand. Hang on. Don't dismiss. You're very quick to dismiss. Don't dismiss. But again, if you look at the situation of, if you hire Pete Carroll to be your coach for 2 years and you say, okay, Pete, we're going to give you 2 years. We're going to hire this person to be our OC, this person to be our DC. And at the end of this 2 years, one of them is going to be the head coach. And we just need you here to get us. Like I know with the Cowboys, the name that came up last week or the week before was Jason Witten. And it's like, yeah,
that's another. I'm going to be quick to dismiss. I would rather have Pete Carroll there than Jason.
All right, well, look, I'm trying here, folks. I don't. But yeah, with the Raiders, I would say the same thing. Like if Brady, and the Raiders situation is very unique because with the whole Brady piece of this. So we'll see. I'm really surprised Todd Monken's not getting more interviews.
Right.
It could be the Lamar effect, but like, look at how good Lamar is. Like Lamar was MVP of the league last year, and he's played better this year with Todd Monken as his OC.
Yeah, so, that's because Dak should have been the MVP last year.
Oh, here we go.
That's right.
Moving on.
Did you mention the Patriots yet?
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, yeah. So Vrabel. I mean, we talked last week. Vrabel got hired, and they're bringing the gang back together.
Haven't we done this? We've done this before. We have seen this happen. What are we doing here, folks? Meet the new boss, same as the old boss.
Who was the OC that ended up being the Notre Dame coach? Charlie Weiss.
Charlie Weiss, yes.
Yeah, they're going to bring Charlie Weiss back. Romeo Crennel,
Matt Patricia,
with Joe Judge.
Hey, just bring them all back. Why not?
Just bring them all. Come on down. I should mention. Well, I guess we can talk about this now. So, a little assistant coaching news. I know the Cowboys lost their special teams coach, son of Jim Fossil.
That's the one coach I actually wanted them to keep, and we lost him.
Yeah, he went to Tennessee, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, and I should mention Tennessee also hired a new general manager, Mike Borgonzi, I believe is how you pronounce it. He was with the Chiefs the last couple of years, so he's got some good experience for him. A couple of defensive coordinators were hired. Jeff Ulbrich is the Falcons defensive coordinator. Apparently he and Raheem Morris are very good friends. I did not know that. So that makes sense. And our boy Lou Anarumo, or Amaretto, however. Today I was like, I'm gonna pronounce this guy's name right, and I don't think I did. So sorry, Lou.
Lou
but he's going to be the defensive coordinator for the Colts. He left the Bengals. The Bengals are kind of dragging their feet on defensive coordinators. Honestly, I haven't heard a lot. I mean, look, some of this is going to have to wait. You know, like if Robert Saleh doesn't get a head coaching job, then obviously you've got to look at that. Another name I heard, going back to Aaron Glenn real quick, I heard the Lions linebacker coach, I think it's Kelvin Shepard, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say he's a hot commodity for a defensive coordinator job. Now, we also should point out the Lions do have to replace their offensive and defensive coordinator because
I wonder if they'll promote within, especially on the offensive side of the ball, to just try to get some continuity there.
Which, by the way, do you know who the quarterbacks coach is for the Detroit Lions? How
Why
about
don't you just tell me?
Saints?
Why don't you just tell me?
How about Saints legend Mark Brunell?
Hmm. I
Yeah.
did not know that. I was going to guess one of the McCowns. Was it? Isn't one of the
No, he's
McCowns
with
like a hot?
the Vikings. Josh
Mm,
McCown. Yeah, there was talk that the Jets might actually hire Josh McCown once upon a time as the head coach. Well, because he was supposed to be, if I'm not, I could be misremembering this. The Texans were set to hire him,
uh-huh.
but that was right around the time of the Brian Flores
Oh yeah,
lawsuit.
because they had just gone from uh
Cully, was it Cully? David
yeah,
Cully, or
Coley,
yeah,
they went to Lovey Smith, and then
yep,
they basically were
yep,
just marching through. So it's like we can't do
yep.
this again. We gotta.
So they settled, quote unquote, for D'Amico. I mean, look, it worked out. D'Amico
Turned out
Ryans has
pretty well for him.
been a pretty good coach. So I don't know. So obviously, the other thing we should mention is like for these teams that make it to the Super Bowl. So like Joe Brady, for example, with the Bills, if the Saints are interested in him, let's say they're gonna have to wait to interview him. So I'm fully prepared for the Saints not to have a head coach until after the Super Bowl at this point because, like I
Yeah,
said, they don't.
you could hire McCown.
Yeah, maybe we could. I guess. I don't know if he'd. I don't know if he'd. He didn't play. His brother played for the Saints. I don't think Josh did. Luke played for the Saints.
Luke play. They're both
I don't
from
think.
East Texas, actually.
Oh, there you go. There's a feather in their cap. I do want to
Oh, you're right.
mention. Couple,
Josh did not play for the. Josh did not play for the Saints.
I do want to mention other coaching news. Kevin O'Connell got paid, got an extension. So good move by the Vikings there.
Congrats to him.
Lock him up. And then I also wanted to mention they announced 2 more international games next year. One in Madrid, Spain, and that will be hosted by the Miami Dolphins. And one of the teams on the Dolphins' home schedule next year is the Saints. So the Saints might be playing in Spain next year. And then, actually, fun fact: the Saints have not played in Miami since 2009 because the game they were supposed to play in 2017 in Miami got moved to London.
Mm.
So they would, and then the other international game that was announced, the Colts get to host in Berlin, first ever NFL game in Berlin. So
They're gonna tear down that wall.
yeah, we'll see what horrible matchup we give Germany this time.
You take your punishment.
Yeah, you know what you did. You know what you did. All right. Any other news and notes we want to talk about before we move on?
I think that's it. I think we're ready to talk about these games, unfortunately.
Yeah, let's talk about the game. So we'll just kind of dive into the games here, and we'll talk about our locks and upsets as we go. So my upset pick, unfortunately, was Texans over Chiefs. Well, Jason Babin presented Chiefs 23, Texans 14. Stupid. So if we had it at plus 8.5. If we had waited till Saturday and took it at plus 9.5, we'd
would
be
have
in
been
good
fine.
shape.
Yep.
As the punter for Kansas City ran out of the back of the end zone like Dan Orlovsky years ago. Yeah, you and I talked a little bit about this before we turned the mics on. That opening drive of the second half from the Texans was one of the most impressive drives I've ever seen in a playoff game. And of course, they followed that up with missing an extra point. And then
Of
from
course.
there, it's like, all right, yeah, it's like you're almost there, Texas. You almost had us. You almost had us fooled there for a second, but
yeah, I listened to.
yeah.
This was the day that we were kind of on the road the uh for the claw machines, and so I was listening to this on the radio as we were driving around places, and so but it just seemed like so the Texans, they had that touchdown drive to start the second half when things like actually seemed like they might get interesting, but other than that they couldn't convert their drives into points effectively. They were having to settle for field goals, and then were they settling for field goals? Yeah, because it was um um but then the the Chiefs they were also weren't really able to stop the Chiefs, and I know part of that is the roughing the passer issues. Um, the, they're going to have to do something because
Yeah.
if you keep
It's,
letting guys just game the system by like sliding late and intentionally kind of inviting that contact, like you're going to
yeah.
end up, first of all, you're going to end up with more injuries than you want, and then the other part of that is you're basically just like leaving defensive players out on an
Well,
island.
and I want to know how two Texans players collide with each other and one of them gets called for roughing the passer. You know what I
There
mean?
was
Or
you
yeah,
can
like
see like there was like minor contact to the helmet, and so it's probably going to get like called anyway. But yeah, he slides so late in that situation. He doesn't. It's not even a slide. It's a like wait for them to launch and then sit down,
yep.
basically.
Um yeah, so real quick. So the Texans have the 15 play, 82-yard, 10-minute drive to start the second half. They missed the extra point, so it's 13-12.
Of course.
The Texans followed that up with a turnover on downs, a 3-and-out punt, an 11-play drive that led to a blocked field goal, and then that
That
was
was
it.
the other one.
So yeah, and then they took a knee at the end because it was a 9-point game. But um and Stroud, looked like he was battling through some injuries there at the end. He looked like he got banged up pretty good. So
Yeah, their offensive line
it
is not exactly
not
helped him out
yeah.
this year. Um,
Yeah, that's going to be a point of. I would imagine that's going to be a point of interest for them in the offseason.
Yeah, you got to get that fixed because that basically like blew
Yeah,
up any shot they. I know they had injuries to the wide receivers. Like Diggs was out. Tank Dell ended up blowing out his knee in the Chiefs game, um,
right. Yeah,
when they
the
played during the
one. Yeah,
regular season. And so, but
yeah. That. Yeah, Christmas was that the Christmas? No, that wasn't the. That was the Saturday
no,
before Christmas.
right.
Yeah.
Um, but just like it undermines so much of what Stroud was trying to do, and you could see in moments where it's that he doesn't trust his protection at certain points, and so he starts dropping his eyes, and like he played great in this game, but it's just you want to make sure that does not become an issue moving forward, um, because we've already seen what the Texans can do to a quarterback with a bad offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, look, they were getting after Mahomes a little bit. I mean, in this game.
Mhm.
So yeah, we'll see. It'd be interesting to
Oh,
see what. Good.
I was just gonna say, I just remembered I think somebody mentioned it somewhere that the Chiefs' pressure rate in this game was like 50%. So
Yeah.
every other time that Stroud dropped back to pass, he was being
Yeah, it
hurried.
was. Yeah, and it wasn't really. I mean, Chris Jones, was doing Chris Jones things, but it was mostly like Karloftis and those guys
Hmm.
getting after him. So good for the Chiefs. Yeah, we'll see what happens this upcoming week. So they will host the AFC Championship. Unfortunately for the other one seed, the Detroit Lions. Steven Alexander presented Commanders 45, Lions 31. So here's the thing: at the end of the show last week, I was trying to pick my upset. I really almost picked the Commanders.
Hmm.
I know that doesn't count for anything, but it just felt like one of these two games was going to go the upset route. One of these two Saturday games.
Hmm.
I should have known the Chiefs have black magic on their side. So I mean, they, yeah, But
They
the
were also playing the
Commanders,
Texans.
yeah, they're also playing the Texans. That helps. So we'll talk about the Commanders. We kind of touched on the Lions already with all the coaching uh, consequences, I guess, dominoes that are falling into place because of this loss here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, uh, I know a lot of people after the game were kind of like, "What does this do for Aaron Glenn? Aaron Glenn's prospects?" And what I was reminded of, and what a lot of people have been reminding us of, is not to bring up bad memories for you, but if you recall last year, Dan Quinn's last game as defensive coordinator for the Cowboys was not the best. Um, and he ended up getting a head coaching.
There's a lot of people who think that he was not focused on the
Right.
Green Bay game.
Right. And that brings up the larger topic of should they even allow assistant coaches to interview during the playoffs and all that stuff. But we won't talk about that here. You can go and find that elsewhere. Yeah, look, Goff just picked a bad time to have a bad game. I don't know why they weren't just handing the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs.
They were averaging like 8 yards a rush in that game. Like
I mean,
anytime they handed the ball off, they
yeah,
were moving down the field.
it was insane. Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically. It seemed like this was a confluence of a few things. It was on defense, the Lions injuries kind of caught up to them. They sent they kept leaning into sending pressure, and especially from kind of the short side, like that Terry McLaurin dump off touchdown. It's basically it's a
Yeah.
like a wide receiver screen, and then the Lions are just outman. They've got 2-on-3 there. Like you're not gonna, and then they end up giving the touchdown there. So Glenn seemed to just like lean way too heavy into the blitz, and it just kept backfiring on him, and he didn't seem to learn his lesson. And some of that's probably also the fact that they've lost a lot of people in the secondary. They want to play a lot of man coverage, and they're not able to sort of
Yeah.
hang with receivers anymore. Um, and then on the offensive side, the offense just like they had there's the sack fumble from Goff where he has to hold it like just a little bit too long, and was it Armstrong that got home? Somebody got home and forced that fumble.
Yeah, I think it was Armstrong. It was either him or Dante Fowler, one of those
Yeah,
guys.
one of the former Cowboys.
Right, right.
Uh, and then they didn't lean into the run, and then my favorite of these, they had the post interception where I think Goff probably needs to lay that more toward the inside of the field because the defensive back is able to just catch up on that post route. And then my personal favorite is letting Jamison Williams throw up. Ben Johnson deciding to lean a little bit too much into the trick play thing with the let's let the guy who was suspended for placing sports bets in the team facility parking lot throw a pass here. not
Yeah,
not sure
also
that's the guy that I want making decisions in a playoff game there.
and also the guy who is probably the fastest guy on the field that, you could just that already took a end around, 60 yards to the house when you had to bring Teddy Bridgewater. By the way, shout out to Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah,
Getting
he
into the
got in
game.
there for a few. Me and the people we were watching that game with were like, Teddy Bridgewater is still in the league.
Well, he wasn't he was coaching high school football, and after the season was over, the Lions signed him to be the backup for
I will
golf.
say I actually thought the few plays that he ran, he looked like he
Oh
could
no,
still
yeah,
play. He still got
he's
something there.
what could have been for the Saints, man. He should have been Drew's successor, but oh well, shoulda, coulda, woulda. Let's talk about the
I wanted
Commanders
to add
first.
one
Oh,
more
go
thing
ahead,
because
go ahead.
the I talked myself into the show. Like last week, I had originally taken the points with the commies, and then I talked myself into the Lions. I saw a
Yep.
post and it showed the like percentage of bets on the Lions on both the spread and money line. I go, oh, I'm in a bad spot here because it was like 90% on the Lions, and anytime
Yeah.
it's that one way, always ends up going. It goes the wrong way, and so I was like, "Oh, I'm on the wrong side of this one."
Yeah. So let's switch over to the Commanders for a second. I'm really impressed with Daniels. I like. I had heard people talk before the game about how cool and calm he is, and I'm watching this game, and he's just like, there's no. He's just not. He's not budging. Like he's just. I don't know. He's very impressive. Very very cool under pressure. I know they lost one of their offensive linemen in the course of
Mm-hmm.
this game towards ACL. Cosme, I think was his
Yeah,
name. Yeah, so that's gonna be tough for them moving forward.
he does scramble a lot.
Yeah, well, I thought, man, Austin Eckler looked pretty good in this game. He had a couple runs there where it's like, okay, maybe Austin Eckler's
And
back.
it seemed like they were also able to get him kind of in space the way that they wanted to against like
Yeah,
sort of the I think the Lions linebackers in coverage were not particularly good
yeah,
coming into this game, and they were able to exploit that. Um, it seemed like Kingsbury was able to just kind of push the right buttons because a lot of times it seemed like there were moments where guys were just kind of like running like wide open in the middle of the field uh, at
well,
certain times too.
and we just to kind of go back to what we were talking about with Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn having interviews during the week. Cliff Kingsbury came out and said, "I'm not interviewing with anybody till the playoffs are over." So,
Mm.
I mean, I'm not saying that.
I wonder if he
I'm
learned
not
from. I
saying.
wonder if he learned something from Dan Quinn.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Like that's You look at what happened. But yeah, so congratulations to the Commanders, I guess. By the way, the Saints were a 2-point conversion away from beating the Commanders, if you remember.
Well, the Cowboys beat the Commanders once with Cooper Rush, and then almost beat them again with
Yeah, that's true.
Trey Lance. So like,
But Trey Lance, that's right. Oh my gosh.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think I will say this. Like, I mean, Daniels played well in that game, but the so the Commanders have like won. They've won a lot of like one possession games, and then they've also they beat the Bucks because Baker fumbled deep in his own territory, and then they kind of got the beat up Lions team that had finally had interceptions or injuries just
Yeah.
catch up to them.
Yeah, I'm really going to be interested to see what the Lions do. So I will say this: I think the hot take going into next year is that the Bears are going to make the playoffs and the Lions won't. Like I think that's going to be a hot, like a just because of all the turnover and all that stuff. So we'll see.
Speaking of hot takes about the NFC North, Paul, I believe going
Oh,
into the playoffs,
ooh,
you had a prediction about who the final four teams would
yeah,
be in the
yeah.
NFC.
I was wrong, wasn't I?
I think you missed it. I think you were in the meaty. I don't think you were in the meaty part of the curve on this one.
So
I wish
yeah,
you had been correct.
yeah. Well, yeah. And I also said Tampa would be one of the final four teams, but Commanders screwed me again.
You screwed me
So
again, Costanza.
so let's talk about the NFC North for a second. So the Packers, the Vikings, and the Lions. I believe the number I saw, their combined record was 40-12 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Against
let's
and
just
that's
go.
against non NFC North teams, right?
No, I think that was their total. Here, hang on. Let's do a little quick math here.
That can't be right. If they're fit, that's 52 games.
So 29, yeah, 40 and
40 and
11,
12,
40
40
and
and 11. Oh, I guess that would
4.
be because 34 and yeah, 17, 34, 51.
Yeah. So yeah, 17 times 3, yeah, that's 51.
Couldn't get the numbers to work.
But I will remind everyone the Lions, the Vikings, and the Packers all played the AFC South, which they all swept the AFC South. So there's 12 wins right there
Mm-hmm.
out of 40. and they all played the NFC West, which was drastically down this year. The Lions swept the NFC West. I think the Packers swept the NFC West, and the Vikings only lost to the Rams. So that's
they lost to the Rams. They actually lost to the Rams
twice,
twice.
yeah, in the play. If you count the playoffs too, but
Mm-hmm.
so you think about okay, so that's that's half your wins right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in hindsight, I mean, look, I know it's easy in hindsight to go back and say they were frauds,
They
but
were frauds.
I don't know. Maybe we should have seen it coming, Brandon. Maybe we put that in the old memory bank for next year when we're looking at these teams here. So the Commanders will move on to play another NFC East. So Brandon, if I had told you in August the NFC Championship game would be between two NFC East teams, you might have gotten excited. Maybe.
You know what I would have said, Paul? I would have
What
said
would you have said?
I would have said,
Well, it sucks.
thanks, Frank.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. Appreciate that. But unfortunately, the Cowboys are not one of these NFC East teams. It'll be Commanders at Eagles. Eagles 28, Rams 22. Presented by Indomitian Sue. Yeah, look, I think the Rams really. I was really surprised by how well they hung on. Honestly, I mean, the snow, I guess, was kind of the deciding factor a little bit.
Well, I think the problem was that they couldn't hang on. They couldn't hang on to the ball.
Yeah.
They had multiple drop passes on one drive where I think they would have had the chance to take the lead. They had I think they had a tight end, maybe Higbee dropped a pass that would have been a first down. They had Puka Nacua drop a pass along the sidelines on third down.
Yeah.
And so they had the fumble by Kyren Williams.
Yeah, so they get the safety on Hurts. That made it 16-15. And then Kyren Williams fumbles it in their own territory. First play of the fourth quarter. And then that led to a Philly field goal, fumble it again, another Philly field goal. I will say for the Rams defense, they were, trying to keep them in it, except for the times when they just let Saquon run wild. But
so in the last game that they played, they did this thing where they were bringing the linebackers up and basically filling the front, and so you had nobody at the second level. So if Saquon gets past the front line, all you've got is like a single high safety back there.
Right.
And that's why Saquon had 2 70-yard touchdown rushes. Well, they did it again in this game. Like, you could see it coming. Like, there's nobody to fill that gap. Did we learn nothing from the first matchup?
Not a good day for Chris Shula, who's the defensive coordinator for the Rams.
I'd like to put my Shula up as, what
his granddad Don Shula probably not
thrilled with that coaching job.
Not thrilled, no. But yeah, I mean, for the Rams, look, man, I don't know what the NFC West is going to look like next year. I mean, between the Rams, Stafford may retire. 49ers are coming off all their issues this year. Cardinals, who knows? Seahawks are probably in the best shape, I would say, because they're coming off a 10-win season. They've got McDonald seems like he's a good coach, and Geno's playing pretty well. But
if you're placing a wager to win that division, who are you taking?
I'd probably say Seahawks. Well, the one thing about the Seahawks, though, I should point this out. They're looking for an offensive coordinator, and one of the names that they interviewed was Clint Kubiak, which we talked about Kubiak earlier.
Oh, your favorite?
Yeah, my favorite. So we'll see what happens there. But I mean, look, if the 49ers are healthy, then you gotta maybe favor them. But after the
Are that
season from hell they had, like,
they've had that happen multiple times in the past too. Like it's
yeah,
they've had seasons that have been blown up by injury. It's not just this season.
yeah. But I may lean towards Seattle. I mean, look, a lot can happen between now and September, obviously, but
Hmm.
yeah. All right, let's move on to the game of the week. I would say probably. Well, I'll say all four of these games pretty good, like at least
They
competitive,
were at least intriguing, right? There wasn't
intriguing. Yeah,
Yeah. Even the
but
one that wasn't particularly close was had some back and forth to it.
but the game of the week, I would say, presented by Billy Cundiff, because why not?
Of
Um,
course.
Bills Bills 27, Ravens 25. Man, tough day for Mark Andrews. Um,
Hmm.
wherever
Fumble.
you are, if you're listening to this, Mark, Godspeed. Like,
Did you see? Did you see what Bill's Mafia had done?
yeah, they donated some money to his charity, right? Like,
Yeah, they
because
raised I
he was
think
just, yeah,
11,000 when I saw it. Um,
yeah, good,
so,
good, good for Buffalo. Man. Look, I will say this is one of the reasons I think a lot of people are rooting for Buffalo. Their fan base is pretty unique in that
hmm.
they're like this is the same fan base that raised money for, I believe it was Andy Dalton's charity
Yep.
when the Bengals beat, I forget who the Bengals beat, but
Oh
they,
yeah, didn't they beat the Ravens to was it the Ravens that they
yeah,
knocked out?
yeah, so that the Bills could make the playoffs for the first time in whatever it was, and so they raised money for Dalton's charity back then, and yeah, look, I'm really rooting for the sad thing is one of these teams had to lose between the Bills and the Ravens. This game was really kind of a heavyweight fight. I mean, it was
Hmm.
they were throwing haymakers all game, and you know, uh, Derrick Henry was. There was at one point in the second half, I think I texted you. It's like, oh, I think Henry's warming up here. Like he had a
Yep.
couple of back-to-back
Yep.
runs where it's like, yep, he's getting going, and the Ravens just
The
couldn't.
The problem
Yeah,
with Baltimore was that they kind of dug themselves into too big a hole early. Like the Lamar has that interception on the out route where or the deep pass where it's it does not seem like it seems like there's a miscommunication, but even so, like the throw wasn't particularly great.
yeah,
And then Lamar has the drop back, loses the ball, and it's returned for it wasn't returned for a touchdown, but it did set up a touchdown.
right.
Um, and so they're down pretty big at halftime, and then Buffalo's able to just do enough to kind of hold
Yeah,
on. I mean, Lamar played lights out in the second half, but the Andrews fumble and the drop obviously are going to be uh,
yeah.
the what gets
That's gonna.
remembered from this game.
Yeah, it's kind of like the what Super Bowl was it where the guy. There was a Super Bowl years ago where the guy dropped the ball in the end zone.
Oh,
It
you're
would
talking
have been
about
like
the
the.
Cowboys one?
Is that what it was? Is that what I'm thinking of?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jackie. Oh my gosh, I don't know why I can't remember this right now. Jackie Smith, I think, was the name.
That sounds right. But yeah, it's and look, it's a shame. I mean, it's something, but I really, if you're Buffalo now, you just got to go take care of business this week, and because I don't want to. I don't want to sound like one of those. Oh, I hate the Chiefs or any of that. I don't. I have nothing but respect for the Chiefs. But if you're Buffalo, man, it's now or never. Like you gotta get over this Chiefs hump, as it were.
Yeah, they've done
Um,
it. They've done it in the regular season. Now they're going to have to do it in
yeah.
the playoffs in
Like
Kansas City.
like this is a legacy. These two games, this one this past week, and then the one against Kansas City this week for Josh Allen. These are legacy games. Like these are the ones that you put on the mantle as like, you know,
Yep.
here's what I did. And I mean, in this game, Allen didn't really have a. I mean, he did, like you said.
His passing numbers were not like, but they were able to run the ball pretty well. I thought they were able to
Yeah,
run the ball a lot
yeah,
better than I expected. I think.
yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking at the box score here real quick. I know. Yeah, James Cook. They had 147 yards rushing. Did Buffalo? So
Hmm.
and Allen only had 127 yards passing. So I mean, they got
Yeah, someone
contributions.
tried to tell me that for some reason that Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts were the same because they both had uh,
Mm,
lower level passing days, but missed me
yeah,
with
I'm gonna. Yeah,
missed me with
yeah, I'm
that argument.
gonna have to respectfully disagree on that one. Anything else on the games from this past week you want to touch upon?
No, the only thing I'm going to reiterate is this NFC Championship game.
Well, it sucks.
Yep. Yep. It duly noted. All right, real quick before we get into the next get into previewing here, the championship games. Just want to update the draft order. So the four teams that lost this past weekend, they will now slide into spots 25 through 28 on the draft order. So pick 25 in the first round will be made by the Houston Texans. Pick 26, the Los Angeles Rams. Pick 27, the Baltimore Ravens. And pick 28, the Detroit Lions. So the two teams that lose in the conference championship, one will be 29 and one will be pick 30. Um, yeah, yeah. So we'll figure that out next week. So Brandon, you mentioned we had some
Day.
snow day today. So with that, I think I feel a draft coming on.
I feel the draft.
I feel a draft. Let's change tables.
Get out of here. We have a booth.
All right,
Okay,
Paul.
so
I think I went first last time, so I think given that
okay,
it should be
you're gonna give
you.
you're
I'm going to give you
you're
the
gonna give Sure. Well, let me explain the draft here real quick. So with the final four, as it were, in the NFL set, we're going to look ahead a little bit to next year. So traditionally, the team that wins the Super Bowl hosts the first game of the year on the Thursday night. It's usually the Thursday after Labor Day. So what we're going to do is we've taken the four teams remaining, so Buffalo, Kansas City, Philadelphia, Washington, and we've looked at their opponents, their home opponents, non-division home opponents for next year, and we're going to draft who we would like to see them play in the season opening game should they win the Super Bowl. So, in other words, like if Buffalo were to win the Super Bowl, who we'd want that first Thursday night game to be, if it were Kansas City, if it were Philadelphia, if it were Washington, so on and so forth. So, and we're gonna keep this to non-division opponents. That's normally what the NFL does. That usually that first game of the year is a non-divisional game. So, Brandon, I think the way we'll do this, we may not do well. I guess we could do snake, but let's do it this way. Let's each do the same team on the in each round, if that makes sense. So, like, so if you're giving me the option to go first, I'm going to start with Buffalo.
okay,
Uh, and
and
I'm
I'll
going to
pick an
say
opponent for Buffalo as well in the next
correct,
pick.
just not the same opponent, right?
Mhm.
Obviously. So I'm going to say if Buffalo were to win the Super Bowl, so their home opponents next year, non-division home opponents, are the Ravens, the Bengals, the Saints, the Bucks, the Chiefs, and the Eagles. So I'm gonna go with the Ravens for their opening. Obviously, a rematch of the divisional round game that we just witnessed. So obviously, some good choices here. I would say probably the worst choice of these is the Saints by far. Like, I mean, unless the Saints have a
I'm going to be honest.
tremendous offseason.
I hate to crush you, but I think you're actually right. It is
No,
the
yeah.
worst.
I mean, I I'll let you pick your go ahead and pick your opponent for the Bills.
All right, I think I'm just going to go ahead and take the automatic rematch of the AFC Championship. I'm going to take Buffalo versus the Chiefs, just because I feel
Yeah.
like the NFL wants to get the Chiefs on TV. They want to get Taylor Swift as much
Yeah.
as possible. So that's the way to
Yeah,
do it.
I feel like one of those is very possible. Can I throw in a sneaky? Well, if we were ranking these options, like we said, these are probably 1 and 2, however you want to rank them.
Hmm.
I would say the Bucks is actually a pretty good option.
Yeah, and I
Given
think
how they,
the Bengals not a bad one too.
yeah, I would say Bengals and Bucks are pretty good, and then potentially you could have a Super Bowl rematch because the Eagles, if the Bills make it against the Eagles, then you could
Right.
potentially have that Super Bowl rematch too. So a couple of good, like I said, the Saints, unfortunately, the worst op. But I will say this: if Joe Brady is the head coach of the Saints next year, you have that storyline,
Hmm.
right? Him
Right.
going back to Buffalo. So we'll see. Okay, what team are we going to pick next here?
All right, we'll just run down the line here because we got it Buffalo, Philadelphia, Washington, Kansas City. I'm just going to go with the next one in line. I'm going to take the
Okay.
Eagles,
Okay.
and I'm going to take the uh, new head coach storyline here. I'm going to take
Yep.
Eagles versus Bears.
Okay.
And
Yeah. We'll
then
just
that is my second pick. So yeah, so
yeah.
you're up.
And I'll just mention the Eagles choices here are the Bears, which you just picked, the Lions, the Broncos, the Raiders, and the Rams. Yeah, I think I'll just go with another rematch here, Eagles versus Rams.
Yeah, that would have been my next choice.
Yeah, I think the Lions could be interesting depending on again what happens with their situation. Broncos is a sneaky good one. Um, but I think I might save them for. Actually, I'm going to save them for my next one here. So I'm going to go for Eagles. I'm going to go Eagles. Eagles versus what did I say?
Rams.
Rams. Thank you. And then just to kick off the next round here, we're going to go with the Commanders, and I'm going to go Commanders, Broncos, because I think you'd have Jaden Daniels coming off a Super Bowl against Bo Nix, right? Uh, and obviously the way the Broncos played this year, I think that would be a pretty interesting way to kick off the season there.
All right, I'm going to go with the. I'll take the rematch story angle in this one. So I'll take
Okay.
the rematch of this week's divisional matchup. I'll
Yep.
take the Commies versus the Lions.
Okay. And just for completeness here, we'll just mention the Commanders' home. Their options here are the Bears, the Lions, the Broncos, who I chose, the Raiders. That actually, I guess, could be interesting depending on who the Raiders
Head
coaching
coaching hire.
situation. Yeah. And then also the Seahawks. Now, the Seahawks could be interesting too. As we mentioned, I think the Seahawks are kind of a sneaky, I mean, team to win the NFC West next year. So that could be an option too. Obviously, I would say the Commanders, of these four teams, the Commanders are probably the longest odds to win the Super Bowl at this point, but you never know. We'll see.
Right.
Last but
Um,
not least here.
Last, we'll take the Chiefs, and I don't want to do the Ravens because they did that last year. So I think they're gonna.
Yep.
Uh,
And they
I
did the
don't.
Lions the year before. So
Yeah. So I don't know the the Texans don't really have enough. They don't really bring a
firepower.
lot of market share to the table, so to speak. So
Yeah.
I guess I'll take the rematch of the old Super Bowl. I'll go Chiefs versus Eagles.
Yeah. So interesting here for the Chiefs. Their options are Texans, Colts, Eagles, Commanders, Ravens, and Lions. So if the Chiefs make the Super Bowl, Um, there's very possible that we have a Super Bowl rematch to start the season. I mean, Chiefs Eagles is already a Super Bowl rematch of years ago, but even if it's Chiefs Eagles or Chiefs Commanders this year, we could get that rematch starting next season. Yeah, I think I'll go with I think I'll go Chiefs Commanders here because even if it's, let's say it's, God help us, but let's say it's Chiefs Eagles in the Super Bowl and the Chiefs win.
Well,
The Jaden Daniels thing is real. Like that's a real uh, phenomenon, right? So I think the the NFL would want to potentially capitalize on that if possible. And to your point, like unless the Texans do something in free agents in the offseason that really, you know, vaults them to like a contender in the
I'm a
AFC.
vault.
Yeah. Yeah,
Too many
right.
people. Too many people know the code to that vault.
Right. Exactly. Um, and then, I mean, the other options there, Ravens, they've already done that. Lions, they've already done. I could see them potentially saying, well, let's just do Ravens again. Let's just run that back, 2 years in a row. But I don't know. I kind of like the choices we came up with. So just to recap real quick, I went Bills, Ravens, Eagles, Rams, Commanders, Broncos, Chiefs, Commanders for my picks. Brandon, do you want to recap your list there?
Yes, I took the Bills versus the Chiefs. I took Eagles Bears. I took Commies Lions, and I took Chiefs Eagles.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Obviously, a couple of these, four of these options will not be valid next next week, right? Well,
Correct.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we'll see. Speaking of next week, moving on to conference championships. We're reaching the end here, Brandon. This is
Yeah.
our
We've got
last.
just 2 more weeks of football.
Yeah, I mean, of football that counts. Yeah, I mean we have
Yeah.
the Pro Bowl in between it, but be that as it may. All right, so Championship Sunday kicks off. Commanders at Eagles. This one brought to you by University of Louisiana legend Brian Mitchell. Eagles are laying 6 points. These two teams have obviously played twice this season. Week 11, that was a Thursday night game. That was Eagles 26, Commanders 18. And then week 16, Commanders 36, Eagles 33. This was the game that Jalen Hurts got injured, got concussed. And then the Commanders were able to pull this one out. That game, so the week 16 game was in Washington. The week 11 game was in Philadelphia.
Correct.
Yeah, I think we're both gonna go Eagles here.
This just seems
we're
like
gonna
the
let-
time when the magic runs out for Washington.
Yeah, and now should point out I sent you this week. No team has lost to Kirk Cousins in the regular season and then gone on to win the Super Bowl. And I will remind everyone, the Falcons, led by Kirk Cousins, defeated the Eagles in week 3, week
It
4,
was
somewhere
early.
around
It was really
there.
early.
Yeah. It was that Monday night game that the
The
Eagles.
Eagles
No, week
choked it
3.
away.
It was week 2 because the week 3 the Eagles beat the Saints. So I think it was week
Mm.
2 when they lost to. But anyway, just throwing it out there, just for what it's worth.
Let me ask you this: If
Okay.
put yourself in my shoes for a second, who would
Okay.
you be cheering for? Who would you prefer? I sent
Oh,
you my pick. I sent you my pick on who I want to win this game, and it's Bane showing up from The Dark Knight Rises.
You want the Heinz Ward
Yeah,
running the kickback and
as
oh
the
god.
as the vet or as the link collapses in on itself like a dying star.
Uh,
Who would you?
I mean, so I would probably want the Commanders, only because I mean, if you look at it, like I feel like Eagles fans are feeling pretty good about themselves right now,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, we can't have that.
And Commanders, uh, I'm always gonna err on the side of the team that hasn't been there in a while or has never been
Mhm.
there. And obviously, the
Mhm.
Commanders, it's been this is '92 was the last time they were in the NFC Championship game, or '90
Yep. Well,
or
then for the 91 season, yes.
'90. Yeah. So, and look, Jaden Daniels, I think is a good story, and we'll see. But I think the Eagles' defense is just another. They're another animal.
Yeah, so
Uh,
my perspective on this is I kind of want the team that's more likely to lose in the Super Bowl to advance here, and I feel like
okay.
that's Washington.
Okay. Then yeah. Then there you go. That's they
Yeah,
got your
that
answer there.
but um,
So yeah, I think it'll be. I mean, based on the previous two games, right? This should be a close game. Now,
it's a divisional matchup, which
right
tends to be a little closer, but
now, my concern, if I'm a Washington fan, is if Philadelphia gets up on you early, like if it's like 10-0 in the first quarter or something like that.
mhm.
Now you kind of like, well, this you might start to not feel
Well,
so good.
and you and I
But
we texted when this matchup was set, and we both
yep.
thought that this game would be at least a touchdown.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I think I told you like 10, or you
Yeah.
said
Well,
10.
I think I
Yeah.
said 10. I think you said at least a touchdown, and I said I would think 10. And I wonder if some of that is that, I mean, not that I think Jalen Hurts is a world beater, but I wonder if, like, the way he's looked lately um, has
Yeah.
not been particularly encouraging. So if he's actually forced into situations where he needs to throw the ball, um, that hasn't been a strong suit of his.
The the other thing I'll say about the Commanders, I am kind of rooting for Marshawn Lattimore uh,
Mm,
to go back to New Orleans, ironically, for the Super Bowl,
yeah.
and and potentially get, because he did not get a ring. He was not part of the 2009 team. He was drafted in 17, so he got to live through the Minneapolis Miracle, the no call in the NFC Championship game, like all that stuff. So, yeah, I wouldn't mind Marshawn getting a ring. So, also, our boy Marcus Mariota, he doesn't have a ring, does it? Or was he on the Eagles team that won the?
I don't think he was.
So yeah, shout out to Marcus
Marcus
Mariota
Mariota.
potentially.
As I say, he's not a Super Bowl champion, so no.
Okay, well, yeah, there you go. So yeah, so I'm definitely, again, we're laying the points with the Eagles, but we're definitely rooting for the Commanders. I think we all know who we're rooting for in this next one.
I have. Before we go on, can I share with
Go
you?
ahead.
I was looking at the Commanders roster while we were going through. Because
Okay.
I mentioned that they've got a lot, like four former Cowboys players,
Yep.
on the roster. But I did find my new favorite Commanders roster name, and
Go
that
ahead.
is Colson Yankoff.
Okay. Okay.
He's not. Sounds like he's not master of his domain.
He might not be. Yeah. Ew.
Ooh.
Uh, that might not be good for business.
That won't be good for anybody.
My mother caught me. Caught you?
Yeah. What was the
Uh,
magazine that he was
the
looking at?
Glamour. It was Glamour.
Glamour.
It was
Glamour.
I was looking to see if there's any other.
I shave my legs, not every day.
Not every day. If you don't know what we're talking about, boys and girls, it's the contest episode of Seinfeld. You need to watch it immediately.
One of the classic, one of the best episodes of all time. Honestly,
yeah, it's not my favorite Seinfeld episode, but I definitely can revere it as one of the best 30 minutes of television ever put to paper.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hopefully this will be good television for the NFL's sake. Bills at Chiefs. Chiefs are laying 1.5 points. Who's presenting this game for us here?
This was I just like search for names for players, and this is
Okay.
Marvcus. I assume is how this is pronounced. Marvcus Patton.
Well, that's why I asked, because I was like, did you put that V on purpose?
No, that is his actual name, Marvcus
All right.
Patton, who played from 1990 to 2002. So he actually was in
Wow.
the league for a while. So he played for the Bills, he played for the Commanders, and he played for the Chiefs. So he played for three of the four teams that are in the playoffs right now.
Good for him. Yeah, came out of looks like he's from UCLA.
Yeah. Drafted in the 8th round.
To play linebacker in the NFL for 13 years, that's pretty good. It's pretty impressive.
27.5 career sacks. So not
okay. So we can't use them. Yeah,
for a sack category.
Did not get 10 or more in a season either.
He did not.
By the way, we need to talk to the Immaculate Grid guys. They need to add more defensive categories. For,
interceptions would be a good one.
Interceptions, tackles, maybe. I don't know. But getting back to this, so Chiefs are laying 1.5 points. These two teams met in Week 11. That was Bills 30, Chiefs 21. That game was in Buffalo, right?
Yes, it was.
Okay. So, look, we talked about it. Like this is make or break time for the Bills. They need to get over this hump. Interestingly enough, I think we mentioned this. I don't know if we mentioned it on the show or not, but if the Bills were to face the Commanders in the Super Bowl, or actually, if the Bills were to make the Super Bowl, they would be guaranteed to face another NFC East team. The Bills have only ever played NFC East opponents in the Super Bowl. They played the Cowboys twice, played the Washington once, the Giants once.
Yep.
And then so they would have to play the Eagles. The Eagles are the one they haven't played yet in the Super Bowl. Right. Okay. So that's something to keep an eye out for. Man, I think I'm gonna. You're taking the points with the Bills. I'm gonna lay the points with the Chiefs, but it's merely a. Let's see how good their black magic is. If it can survive the Paul Jinx, then they got something.
This is extremely me just picking who I want to cheer for in this situation. I'll just cheer for the Bills. Yeah, for sure. So this is. If I had to put money on this game, I would probably lay the points with the Chiefs based solely on just the black magic.
And if it is Bills Eagles, those two fan bases in New Orleans for a week, that would be that'd be something. That'd be something.
That would be something. All right.
That'd be something. So we didn't talk about this pre-show, but are we going to do George is getting upset? And
I feel like we don't have enough material here.
Yeah, we don't have enough.
I mean, I'll take the Bills as my upset pick.
Yeah, there you go. So if you want to play the drop, you can.
Hold on. George, where are you?
This is not good. Worlds are colliding. George is getting upset.
Let's go Bills.
Let's go Bills, and then I guess for Jerry, it's a lock.
on, Jerry. It's a lock.
Kramer, you've had this thing under control for almost 3 years now.
I guess for this, I'll go with Eagles. Yeah. So, look, I'm doing my part again. I'm trying to jinx them as best I can. So,
You know, I really should. You know what I really should have done is I should have taken. You've been watching Coen Brothers movies. What we should have done is taken the Big Lebowski scene where he's in the back of the taxi
okay.
and the Eagles are playing, like the band, the Eagles. And he's
Oh,
like,
right.
come on, man! I've had a rough day. I've had a rough day, and I hate the fucking Eagles. you get out of my cab.
I forgot about that. That's awesome.
I use that line all the. If someone ever like sends me stuff about the Eagles, I'll like send that clip back. I've had a bad day, and I hate the fucking Eagles.
Oh, man.
Classic movie.
All right, so
Next time we speak, we'll have a Super Bowl matchup.
we'll have a Super Bowl matchup. The Saints probably still won't have a coach. Cowboys might have a coach, maybe.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
With the names that they're circling around right now, I'd prefer they don't.
Right. I would say it may not be the coach you want, but they may have one. And we'll talk about these two games, and we'll start to do a kind of a mini preview, I guess, of the Super Bowl, and talk about some other things. I'm sure.
Talk about other things.
Yeah, would. But until then, happy football, everybody.
Happy football.